Do do do, theme song. Do do do, I'm broke, so this is my theme song. Do do do, just imagine this is an awesome theme song. Do do, theme song. Left of the box. Hello. Welcome,
How are you,
welcome,
Sandy? Thank you for
welcome.
having me.
Yeah, welcome, 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 everyone, to this Tuesday night live stream. I'm pandering to the guest, as people can see. Welcome. It's so nice to meet you.
I'm very excited for our conversation. I'm honored that you would have me on your show. So thank you very
Yeah.
much. I do appreciate it.
Well, so far in the sandbox, that's what I call my chat because this channel is left of the box and my name is Sandy, so it only makes sense. We have, if I scroll back up to the top, Donald James, hermeteorologist, Jet John Davis, PB. There's a few more names in there. Mudbuds. There was somebody else, The Wild West. Sorry if I'm missing your name. A bunch of people jumped in. Tiffany C, who seems to be really excited about you. Maybe one of your regular chatters.
Tiff's one
Sasha
of my
G.
mods. Hi,
Ah,
Tiff. How are you?
Sasha
I
G.
appreciate you coming over.
Crotchety. Yeah. BCat. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, I got $2 super chat already. They like my theme
Let's go.
song. Thank you so
Let's
much,
go.
Sasha G. Got some lobsters, little emojis going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. From Boston.
Yeah, I've been
With
watching
love.
some of your content, and I remember when you first said, like, where are the lobsters? Like, my mind just kind of fizzles.
I'm sorry, but if you're gonna say it, I'm gonna have to
Lobster?
force you to do it with the accent. Yes,
Lobster.
please and thank you. I might even throw in a couple A's here and there in this stream, so you never know, just to fit in with you.
Yeah. Well, when you first said that, I'm thinking Jordan Peterson?
No, gee, no. Although I do have a tendency to cry on stream, so that's not a good look either,
Mm.
because he does a lot of that too, but usually for like the weirdest reasons ever.
I'm
You know what I mean? It's
okay.
just
I'm
like
okay with
the
people.
most random thing,
Yeah, I'm
you
okay
know?
with people crying on screen. It's just when he cries on screen, it really seems inauthentic.
Is he still actually alive? Because the last time I saw him, he looked like shit. Like he looked
No, no, he just had like a
like somebody was overdosing on Ozempic.
no, he just moved to the United States, which was a big story, and he just had a big sit down with Pierre Poilievre.
Oh, okay.
And that interview has had millions and millions of views, and it was just a bunch of lies and bullshit.
Well, as does,
Mhm,
typically most or a lot of right-wing
mhm,
content. Everybody
mhm.
loves to say that the left has control of the media and,
Yeah.
CNN and MSNBC and all
Mhm,
this crap. You know what I mean? It's
mhm,
nonsense. If you actually, get down to brass tacks and see
mhm,
who's owning these places, I believe CNN's owned by, a Trump supporter. You can tell MSNBC does everything possible, and as well as CNN to, kind of play that game of, we are being fair, so they have to make it overly fair to the Republicans so they don't look like they're, being,
mhm,
too cordial to the Democrats. And then they end up just, nobody believes them. The
mhm,
left doesn't want to watch it because they're obviously too far right, and the right doesn't want to watch it because they know they're just full of crap. You know what I
mm.
mean? So it's like they end up losing everybody.
Yeah, same up here, really. Just different organizations. So before we get into like introducing you to my audience and everything properly, like giving your backstory and all that sort of stuff, I have a little bit of initiation for Americans coming onto my show. And
What
that
do I do?
is a Canadian pop quiz.
Oh,
You see,
jeez.
the thing is that with only two countries on your border, figure you should know a little something about both of them. Also, there's a lot of like cross-border dealings, culture, people like to cross the border all the time. Like this is about building cross-border solidarity. And let's face it, any given
Please,
Canadian,
please be about hockey. Please be about hockey.
any
That's all
given
I can ask.
Canadian knows way more about Americans than Americans know about us. So
Well, is that because, what we do has more effect on you guys, so to speak? you know what I mean? Like what you guys do, I think has a lesser effect on us, and we always have the
Oh,
largest
is
impact
is
around
that
the world type of thing.
is that what you think?
No,
When
I'm
we send
already
down?
making
Yeah?
excuses. I'm already making excuses for when I fail this
Yeah.
fucking
No, no.
quiz.
When we send
That's all I'm
down like
doing.
the Steven Crowders and the Jordan Petersons and the
Oh yeah, always
Ted
send your best.
Cruzes and
We
stuff like
appreciate
that,
it.
like
Yeah,
we
we
have
appreciate it.
influence on you
Thank you.
guys too with our right wingers.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
I'll,
Was that what
I'll
you do when you pissed off at Americans?
well,
Like, "Alright,
we have to sacrifice. No, we
send
have
him
to
Ted
yeah.
Cruz this time."
We have to sacrifice a right winger at least every 3 months in Canada in order to keep the snow gods happy.
Jeez. I don't know if
Um,
you can say that on YouTube.
so I'll give you a little bit parameter here. I'm not going to ask anything that I would think is too challenging. And basically, these are questions I know the reverse of. So I'm not going to ask you like who the third prime minister was, partly because I don't even know who the third prime minister was unless I look it
Okay.
up.
Alright.
So, first
Alright, good.
question.
Alright.
What is a toque?
A toque is a hat, is a winter hat.
Yes. I figured you'd get
What
that
we would
one.
call I think we would call a beanie,
Yes.
maybe? Does it have to have the poof on it, or is this
Mm,
no poof?
it doesn't have to have the poof.
Toque is also a type of, blade for a hockey skate.
Ah, so
Toque is
you're
a company that makes,
yeah.
blades and, like, the rails for the
Mhm.
blades on hockey skates, or at least they used to when I played.
So you're also like a hockey aficionado here?
No, I wouldn't say aficionado. I mean,
Mhm.
a Bruins sports fan. I grew up playing sports my entire life. Hockey was
Mhm.
probably, the thing I was best at, really, and what I
Okay.
did the longest and most, I would say. So,
Well, since
not an
this
aficionado, but a fan. A fan.
yeah, well, since this particular city has a hockey team, you should know what the capital of Canada is.
For fuck's sake, Winnipeg. No, it's not Montreal.
Now you're just
God
going
damn
through
it!
all the
Why do you
hockey
get?
teams in your head?
I am. I am. Like, you gotta put me on the spot like this. I didn't think this was. I came in with more TYT things to talk about than I did
Yeah.
Canadian
No,
facts,
don't worry, don't
unfortunately.
worry, don't worry. I have
No, because this is terrible. I
this is
should absolutely
fun.
know this, and I'm
No,
not good at being put on the spot. That's what the thing is.
well, you see, the thing
Like, I
is
study World War II, and if
yeah.
you ask me a World War II fact right now, I probably wouldn't know
I do
it.
wanna talk
Just because.
about that. Yeah, I do wanna talk about some of that too.
Alright,
But,
alright, alright.
I do
So it's
this
not
it's just
Ottawa,
fun.
Ottawa.
Yes, Ottawa. Okay.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. That was fucking terrible.
Hey,
I
hey,
honestly,
stop
I
with
should
the
log off the
stories.
stream.
Stop with the no appropriating Canadian culture
How
on
do you
my
s how do
channel.
you actually s how do you spell that? Is that 2 R's or is that just Sorey? Sorry.
Eh, depends if you're French or English, I suppose.
Alright,
No,
alright.
it's just to be
Alright, hit me
désolé.
again.
Okay. How many provinces are there?
Oh, see, you shoulda hit me with are there states or provinces first. I was kinda hoping that was coming because I do know they're provinces. I wanna say there is 9?
Close.
8?
Other way.
10?
Yes.
Are there that many? God damn,
That many? We're bigger than you.
that's a lot. No, that's what I mean,
Mhm.
that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess you're right. If we're broken down into state, a lot of states, you're saying it's not as many if you break it the
Granted, the
land mass down
population,
into 10.
there'd be no sense in having a province with like 30,000
You
people
know
in
what's
it.
stupid is I should actually know that number because I don't know if anybody's gonna get this reference, but if you watch YouTube Golf, I watch Bob Does Sports, and there's a character on there, uh, uh, Joey Coldcuts, who's from
Mhm.
Canada. I think he's from British Columbia, and and he
Well,
was just going through this on one of the streams, and so
actually
I knew it was a high number, but I couldn't remember the exact number he said. I
actually, I
apologize.
figured you should have got it because you mentioned it on one of your recent live streams.
I did?
Yes.
See, I have a tendency to almost, like, black out during a live stream. Like, afterwards, the camera's off, and I'm like, "Alright, what did I say?" Like, did I say anything stupid? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, I have to, like, rewatch it to remember what I said.
So,
So, maybe that's what I was talking
uh,
about.
no, no, I know what you were talking about. That's going to be part of another question. But first, can you name any of the provinces?
Oh, Jesus. Is Manitoba one?
Yes.
Let's see. Isn't that I think British Columbia is in Manitoba, though, so I can't get away with saying British Columbia, right? Or is that wrong?
British Columbia, it's
Come
its
on.
own province.
Alright, so that's another one. We got 2.
Sort of.
Um Saskatchewan, maybe.
Yeah. No, not maybe. Yes.
Um, well, I'm doubting myself here. I mean, for Christ's sakes, let me at least doubt myself as I look like an ass on your stream. You might have to help me with the rest of them, to tell you the truth.
Well, how about the
Just
one
for the sake,
that I live in?
just for the sake of time.
Yeah. How about the one that I live in?
Well, is there a reference on your wall? You're not giving me much.
No, not really. No. I'm in Ontario.
Ontario, that's it. Yep, that's a major one that I probably should have got that one.
Well, there's another one that's
That's
actually
good.
tied to a question that I was going to ask that maybe you might know because it was near and dear to Boston at the time. The largest man-made explosion before the First World War.
The largest before the First World War.
The largest man-made explosion. Somebody in my sandbox suggested that I mention this because Boston was very integral to this incident.
Jesus Christ! All my cards are getting taken away. My fucking my Boston card's gonna get taken away. Canada card, I'm never gonna get that one. That one's out of the question. No, I don't know what the largest man-made explosion.
Canada doesn't give out green cards. The Halifax explosion.
The Halifax explosion.
Yeah, back in 1917. Largest man-made explosion, killed over 1,500 people. Was in the harbor. Apparently a lot of people in Boston came to aid.
Was that like a Joshua James type of thing? I know we have a lifesaver around here who kind of started what they now call the Coast Guard, who used to go out and shit little rowboats.
Apparently, Nova Scotia used to send you guys a Christmas tree for thanks.
I've been to Nova Scotia too. I went whitewater rafting up there. I was dunked in a nice big brown river. You know, they told me not to wear white because like the river just like stains everything. They basically just drive you up the river. They throw you out of the dinghy and then they wait till you float down. They zip down river and they just scoop everybody up down river. It was like, It was actually pretty fun.
Yeah, no. I do have that Wikipedia page if you want to know more about it later on. I do have that Wikipedia page.
I do love history stuff, but again, I kind of start at World War I, World War II. It's kind of the thing, you know.
Like I said, I do have questions about that later on. I do have questions about that later on. Yeah. Well, actually, when did Canada enter the Second World War?
You can continue embarrassing me.
Yeah, when did Canada enter the Second World War?
When did Canada enter the Second World War?
Yeah.
Fucking Christ! See, this is what I'm talking about.
Aren't you a World War II expert?
No, I didn't say expert. I don't know. I also did say that I'm not good at being put on the spot though. Yeah. Like I'm not a guy you take to Thursday, like Taco Tuesday fact, what do they call it? Trivia night.
I know this is totally unfair because if the roles were reversed and somebody asked me to name like 10 states, I'd have to actually think about it, but I would be able to do it.
Like I know the whole the Devil's Brigade, the unionizing between them but that was I'm trying to think of what year it was. I'm gonna have to say, if I was to go with anybody, when Britain declared war.
Yeah, pretty much right at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to think of an exact date, and I didn't want to be wrong on that one.
Well, exact date is it was close enough to the beginning, like a few days after or something. Okay. Now, this one you should be able to get because you were talking about it in like a recent live stream of yours. Can you name a single other Canadian?
I didn't know I was going to sweat on this. I would have wore less clothes.
Well done. Don't let me stop you.
Well, as far as not a sweatshirt, I mean. Sorry.
Other than Justin Trudeau, can you name a single Canadian politician?
Not a chance. Oh, Elizabeth May?
Yes, there. See, I figured you'd get her.
Because she was fantastic. But no, I was actually that night I was kind of looking into, because I was asking people on the live stream. I admittedly said I don't know the process on what happens now after Trudeau resigns. I don't. Is there some sort of election? Is it, somebody whoever speaks up the loudest and gets the most kind of attention type of thing? Or, what the hell?
Well,
What happens now? And I don't think I really got the answer, to tell you the truth.
I'm currently trying to raise $350,000 so that I can run in the leadership race of the Liberal Party.
Well, let's friggin' go.
Yeah.
What's the GoFundMe? What's the link?
Yeah.
Let's get that out there.
But, keep in mind, it's Canadian conversion, so it's not that scary. For Americans, it's only $242,000 for me to be able to actually run in the leadership race.
Right.
Okay, just a couple more questions, because I'm having fun with this.
I'm not at all, I'd have to say. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Just a couple more.
Hit me. Fuck.
What is the freezing point and boiling point of water in Canada? Like, other than, yes, technically it's the same temperature as the United States.
I was gonna say, is this a trick question?
Other than, yes.
Or are we going?
Celsius.
Do you want the Celsius
in
conversion?
Celsius?
All right. Well, 32. I should know this too because I watch a lot of.
And let's just say it makes absolute sense. Like, it would just be like if you were to invent
0.
it. Yeah, 0 for freezing. And
Ooh,
what would make
that's
sense?
a good question for boiling.
What would make sense?
What? 100?
Yeah.
That would make sense to me.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
I think I'm. Let's see. Is anybody tallying up in the chat? Because if you are, throw that paper away, please.
Well, let's just
I don't want to see the
say
score.
you're not doing the
Or
worst.
my grade.
You're not doing the worst.
That's impossible that anybody has done worse than this.
No, I've had
Like,
Americans
my
on that couldn't
palms-
answer a single question. And
I
you've
could-
answered
I
at
could
least
literally drown in the sweat in my palms right now.
Yeah, you've answered like 4 correctly so far, so that puts you in like the top tier Americans here.
Oh, Jesus. We are the worst. Fat, dumb, and stupid.
Do you by chance, and this one is just a silly one, but do you by chance know what we call our $1 and $2 coins? We don't have bills, we have coins.
What you call your coins?
Mm-hmm.
You don't call them like, do you call them pence? I mean, is it the same?
Nah.
It's not anything like, no. No, I don't know, but I do know you guys have ridiculous, oversized parking tickets. Because every time I've gone to Montreal, I've gotten a parking ticket, and it was like a friggin' newspaper on the windshield. We get like just like a little orange thing, but in Canada, they really have to make you look like an asshole. Like, everybody has to know that you parked illegally. You know what I mean? So they put this like giant newspaper-sized orange. It's like, what? Well, it's like, what happened?
It's just
like,
a
I thought that was
windshield screen at that point.
Yeah. So you can't even drive until you read it. You know what I mean? It's like that you are forced to read what you just did.
Yeah.
So, but no, what do you call them? Is it like nickname?
Yeah, Looney and Toonie.
Oh yeah, you know what? It does. Believe me, it does sound familiar. But no, I wouldn't have got it in a trivia setting.
Yeah, it's silly. Oh, my kitty cat is coming into the room. Hello, Frodo. Anyway, so I think that's enough. That's enough. Let you off the hook now.
Oh, thank Jesus. All right, breathe.
You played it like a good sport.
We're good. School was never my strong suit. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Not because I wasn't smart, but just because the attention span was never there for me.
Well, it's not like Americans are actually taught about Canada.
No, and that's unfortunately, that's you're absolutely right. Which is why I kind of appreciate the game that you play to highlight that fact, because I'll have to study up on my provinces. Did we actually name them? I feel bad. I feel like we should actually.
You should actually
named? Just. I think it should happen. I feel bad for the people watching in Canada.
Yeah. So you have BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and PEI.
Newfoundland I should have got too. I think my family's I have some family history from Newfoundland.
And PEI, which is Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, we used to go out of Bar Harbor, Maine to Nova Scotia. Scotia Prince. Yeah. Don't ever take it. I don't know if it's still in business, but it's terrible.
I'm not exactly close to Nova Scotia. It'd taken me quite a bit to get there.
Is anybody close to Nova Scotia?
Well, New Brunswick. It's pretty close. You're close.
Technically, there's close relatively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, Nova Scotia is a pretty small province compared to some of the other ones.
I know everybody feels like people call us Canada sometimes.
Hmm.
Like they think we're so far north
The
and
name,
east.
so you get the name, but none of the perks.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, Massachusetts isn't bad, you know. We pay high taxes, but we also see, some
Hmm.
return on our investment, so to speak, in that regard, with some of the best healthcare on the planet.
Hmm.
Some of the best hospitals in the area here, and
Hmm.
cancer treatments and just whatever new treatments that they're trying to figure out still is that's happening literally around the block. So
Yeah.
I'm blessed in that regard.
Well,
What else?
I quite
The
liked it.
infrastructure,
Yeah.
we're kind of good on,
I
like,
quite liked it when I visited not too long ago.
oh, were you down here?
Yeah, hence the Boston shirt.
There you go. Well, I mean, nowadays you can
Mhm.
get it. I
I
mean,
know.
Amazon will get you
But
that.
I wanted to
Amazon will
get
get you
it.
that in 30 seconds.
Okay, I'm not that desperate to pander to my guests that I would then go on Amazon and buy a related shirt to them.
Right, right.
No, I
But you
went
did put
there.
it on.
Yeah, yeah, I had it. Might as well. No, I got it when I went to see the Majority Report live when they were doing their live show in Boston.
You know what? I literally I think I bought tickets to that, right? During
Hmm.
COVID.
Yeah.
Or I bought tickets and then COVID hit or something like that. And it kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And eventually I think I got my money back for it.
Hmm.
I just kind of like it took, I was like, well, I don't know when the hell it's going to happen. So is that the same one that was supposed to happen back then? Or
Yeah,
is this
yeah,
another
it
one?
got delayed because of COVID, which for me was
It got
good.
delayed. It's like 33 years later. You
Well,
know
for
what I mean?
me, it was good that it got delayed because the weekend it was originally
Excuse me.
supposed to happen, I was planning on driving there, and there was like a massive snowstorm that ended up shutting down the highway, and it hit
Yeah.
when I would have been on my way back. So it worked out well
No,
for
that
me for
makes
it to be
sense.
delayed because it was
So
also
how was that?
my
I
chance.
love them. I
Oh
love
yeah,
Sam and Emma and
I'm a huge fan.
I liked Michael a lot when
Hmm.
he was around.
Oh,
Um, he was a lot,
yeah.
he was really fun to listen to.
He was my
But yeah, I
inspiration.
mean, there's it's weird because I haven't been in politics long, compared to others. I'm sure yourself. I was
Mm,
more brought into politics when Donald Trump arrived on the scene.
We're
That's when it kind of
we're
sparked
probably
my
about the
attention.
same age in politics then.
Right, right. So, I was always, like I say in my show, the idiot in the background, yelling and giving my opinion and critiquing from the back
Mhm.
seat, but not actually doing anything about it and, voting or speaking my mind and actually learning about what the hell I was talking about type of thing.
Well, this
But
kind of
when
leads in,
Donald
yeah.
Trump came around, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, this kind of leads into like, why don't you give your backstory as to how you got started and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I mean, as far as politics mean
Yeah,
or
yeah.
everything?
Well, I'm
Well,
pretty sure
like I
you were
said,
conceived at one point. We
I
don't
was
need to
conceived
start
in
that
in
early. I don't
85.
need that
Yeah.
described.
But as far as politics is concerned, like I said, I've had this love or passion, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's actually a good word for it, but for, World War I, World War II, all the way up to like I'd say Vietnam's kind of where I start losing it. Doesn't really make sense to me. For example, in Vietnam, where expend 1,300 soldiers to take a hilltop to hold it for 6, 7 hours, only to get off the hilltop and let the enemy retake the hilltop. It doesn't make sense to me. And then after that, combatants stop wearing uniforms. Like I like when you can
Hmm.
identify, like, World War I, World War II is that's what it was. Everybody had their uniforms. They were different in a way, but you could tell who was who. You know what I mean?
So
So, and
why
I
were
kind of
you,
studied the.
yeah, why were you
Go ahead.
drawn to that? Like studying the
Well,
world wars?
that is a wonderful question. I mean, I think the simple answer is just because my dad used to have the History Channel on a lot. To tell you the truth, and I'd end up sitting down and watching what the World War II in color, or World War II from space, or whatever the documentary or the subject would be on history, and it kind of sparked my attention. And I think I kind of lost it for a little bit, and then for some reason, went back to watching old World War II movies and documentaries, and that led to books and
Hmm.
just this kind of obsession, so to speak. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm not an expert on it. I'm just kind of a
Mhm.
normal dude that on his spare time when he has it, that's pretty much what I'm doing. You know what I mean? But like I said, it took me to learning about Mussolini, learning about the black shirts, learning about the beginnings of fascism, and how that was used, and how Hitler actually looked up to Mussolini at one point and what he was doing, and kind of emulated what was going on in Italy, and took that and ran with it in Germany, and the tactics that people like Joseph Goebbels and the media in the the Nazi army political party were using to sway the minds of the masses to get them to believe what were obvious lies, right? What
Mhm.
these people, German citizens, are walking by concentration camps in some points, looking at the ashes, the smoke coming out, the smells, the yells, the whole
Mhm.
9 yards, and then going to a movie theater where the film is telling them everything's peachy keen, and nothing's going on, and we're winning the war, and everything's fine. So it's obviously there's some sort of tactics that people use that can be replicated, and unfortunately, I think people like Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, Donald Trump to a degree. I think he somehow backs into fascism. I always say he's not. I don't think he's an actual fascist, like thinking about it. I just think he's so narcissistic, hates to be wrong, doesn't like to be called names, that he just kind of literally backs into the exact moves that a fascist would make if they were trying to do something. So, and we could talk about how his incompetence led to over 1 million deaths of the Americans, or what he wants to do with immigrants as far as, putting them in concentration camps
Yeah.
now, and
So
how they're going to be
yeah.
housed and stuff.
So
Go ahead.
I do want to actually like get into that because I'm kind of curious from your perspective with your knowledge of history. Does do you think that makes you more or less concerned about what's happening now compared to the average person? But this is going to be after we finish your little backstory as to how you got to doing
Well,
your
basically
channel and
what I was
stuff.
gonna say is looking at what was going on and what I was watching in the documentaries, and then when Donald Trump came out and said, all Mexicans were such and such, we all know what he
Mhm.
said, no need to be repeated, but that kind of was like, whoa, wait a minute, you know what I mean? And that's obviously not something you've ever heard, or even remotely from any stand-up politician, never mind a United States president. So that kind of led me to listening to everything that the guy said, whether it was an interview, on TV, on Morning Joe, on whatever the heck it was. I was there to listen to what the heck he was saying, and then to try to call it out. At one point, I was on Twitter and I was doing something, and I think I put out a short clip, a video of me saying something, and somebody was like, "Oh, you should do a TikTok." And I was like, "Well, I don't own any Ferraris or diamonds or anything, so I don't know if that's gonna work out." Me not knowing what the hell TikTok was. I always get into everything late. So basically they told me there was different areas of TikTok. There's politics, there's this, there's that. So I was like, whatever. I made one video and it did really well. So I just kept making them, and it ended up ballooning to somewhere near 250,000 followers at this point. I haven't utilized it as much lately, only because I'm unsure what's happening with TikTok, and I don't want to
Yeah.
spend too much time and resource in it if it's just
Yeah.
going to be taken away in a couple days, whatever. You
That's
know what I
in
mean?
the
So
queue to
we'll see.
talk about later.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's something that we'll
That's
figure
in the
out.
queue
We'll
to
deal with
talk
that when
about.
it comes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what led me to politics, is just seeing basically the direct line between the Nazis' tactics and the GOP's tactics of today, which is, we don't have the numbers, but what we can do is put out enough lies and propaganda to sway enough people that we can at least in the margins get it by, this time we saw 1.5%, which is what everybody on the right is calling a mandate, which is bullshit. It's just that's not an overwhelming mandate from the American people. That means somewhere near 49% of the country disagrees with you
Mhm.
and your policies. So get this mandate crap out of here. Um,
I would say it's
but still,
even,
that's
yeah, I would say it's probably more than that because quite often with those stats, they don't include all the non voters who are technically against what Trump stands for but didn't vote.
what do you mean? Like, how would you include people that didn't vote though?
When it comes to like speaking about a mandate and who supports Trump's vision and stuff like that, like I think there's far more Americans
Oh,
that
right,
are
right.
against it than just the 49%
No,
because of
right,
the all
right.
the
No,
non-voters.
I think you're 100% right. But even taking that into account, if you put that to the side, even if you don't take that into account, even the numbers that are calculated, it's not
Mm-hmm.
an
Yeah.
overwhelming percentage of the country that where it's like nobody can question anything he does because 95% of the American people spoke up and that's what they want, type of thing. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? But in short, or in very long, I should apologize, that's how I kind of got into politics. It
Mm-hmm.
was me knowing that Donald Trump was different. It was a different animal. It was, something that was going to take a different approach and a different attack. And I think, my kind of straight to the point, no bullshit kind of, approach to calling him out, it kind of resonated with people. And that's kind of led me to where I am now.
Mm-hmm. So when did you start making the videos and live streaming?
That's a good question too. The YouTube I haven't been doing for that long. I'd say less than a year. I've been doing the YouTube. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of switched over from TikTok to YouTube when the whole TikTok thing was up in
Mm-hmm.
the air and what was going to happen. I didn't want to get caught with kind of all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. And once that was taken away, I had to start all over again with nothing. So I kind of took the time to slowly, start a YouTube and get to Twitch and, Instagram, Facebook type of thing. And, we're getting close to 10,000 now. So it's, very much, I'm very much appreciative for the support that people have shown to the channel.
Mm-hmm. Are you enjoying it?
I am. I am. It's stressful. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
I I get anxiety just because I'd like, I don't want to put on a bad show or waste anybody's time for 2 hours. So, it's kind of, as soon as one show's done, you're looking for what you're doing on the next
Mm-hmm.
show to make sure you're not scrambling and stuff. So I give a lot of credit to people that do it daily,
Mm-hmm.
just how they do it. I don't know. I'm not sure that I'm sure at some point I'll I'll get there maybe, but it takes a lot. You'd be surprised how much behind the scenes, if you just watch it from the chat, you don't do it, what it takes with the tech and clicking buttons and you got to do it yourself. And again, I always say this is kind of the same thing that was taking CNN and all these other channels a truck and 7 people to do 10 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're doing this by ourselves,
Yeah.
right here. So it's, we should be thankful that we could do it.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, there was a question very much related to this that was right in my brain. Oh, right. Because, I've been looking back at some of your videos, getting to do, some a little bit of research to figure out like who am I talking to and stuff. And I've noticed
It
your
helps.
streams don't tend to stick to 2 hours. They tend to go
No,
over. Yeah.
I have never once, I don't think, ended my
Mhm.
stream in exactly 2 hours.
My
I'm not
advice,
sure if I can get that done.
yeah, my advice, don't worry about it. Don't. Just it's going to be as long as it's going to be, as long as people are engaged in the chat and you have something
Right.
worth saying, go at it. Because when I started doing live streams, which was, I used to just make video essays and I only started doing live streams just over a year ago. My goal was to stick to 2 hours. Right now, a short live stream for me is 3.5.
Well, I mean, I've made arguments before that, the live streamers that I kind of
Mm-hmm.
watched, again, when I first got into this, I watched a lot of Hassan.
Mm-hmm.
Hassan's on for 8 hours a day, for Christ's sakes. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's what I kind of considered to be a live streamer when I came into the sphere. You know what I mean? I don't really think that. I mean, of course, you call yourself a live streamer because that's what you're doing. But in my eyes, back in the day, if you were like, would you call somebody that does a show on, me? I do a Wednesday night and a Sunday night. Would you call that like a live streamer? And I'd say no, probably not. I mean, look at this guy; he does it 8 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. But I'm hoping to have it not only become more regular,
Mm-hmm.
but a bigger part of my life, and hopefully we can make a bigger difference as the channel grows, and we can connect with different people like yourself, and make an actual difference. I think
Mm-hmm.
in not only the midterms, but the next election.
Yeah. So, like I said, been watching your content, and you seem to swing very progressive. And I'm just wondering, were those values kind of always there, or did you have to learn them?
God no, you know what? It's a probably a funny story, and I'm sure like my backstory is exactly what people would expect when they see me now, like the stuff I used to say, and what was acceptable, let's say, when I was younger, and what's not acceptable now, and what you would think of, what you wouldn't think about saying back in the day, and what it's kind of, a lot of it has changed. So I've never grown up in a political family. They've never been in a politically correct family either. My mom has 12 brothers and sisters who have multiple kids themselves. So it's been a big variety of personalities and stuff, and I've grown up with it all. But no, I have not always. It's taken me time to realize that the stuff I say has consequences to people, whether you know it or not, whether you mean it or not, whether that's your intention or not. To focus on, it's taken a while for me to realize that as a white guy in Massachusetts, I am afforded privileges that a person of color in Massachusetts isn't afforded, or a woman anywhere in this country isn't afforded, or I should say a person of color anywhere in this country isn't afforded too. So I'm well aware now of things that I was not before. You know what I mean? And I kind of think that separated me from my friend group a little bit, who are still more, not. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say like right wing. I mean, I think a lot of people would characterize it as that, but I think they're like non-political, more like just like being anti-establishment, and like whatever is whatever's funny, making fun of the establishment or hating on the government or something like that. That's what they like, type of thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like Joe Rogan.
Yeah. So
that
so when and where do you think these values started to spring out?
Well, I don't, that sounds crappy to say. I was gonna say I think I've always been somewhat of a nice guy, because even in high school I was tasked with, if we had any foreign exchange students that came over, for some reason the teachers loved having me kind of show them around and take them around to classes and introduce them to people. So we had people from Czechoslovakia, or Afghanistan or Pakistan a few times come in, and I'd have to show them around and stuff. So I kind of realized that. I think at that time I realized, like, wow, it's going to be really tough for this person. They don't know the language. They're coming into a school that's, I wouldn't say hostile, but it's South Boston. It's got its own vibe, type of thing, which I'm sure every other school does too. Every school has got its own type of vibe. Some are more laid back, some are not. But I knew it was going to be tough coming into this school system for this person. So maybe that's when I started kind of really empathizing with other people and their culture, and how different cultures work and stuff like that. So,
I
and
used
again,
yeah. I
no, go
used
ahead.
to
No, go
yeah,
ahead.
I used to do that in high school too. I had friends who were
Right.
newcomers, and I would help them with their English and stuff, help them with slang and whatnot,
Hmm.
and made sure that they had at least one friend. But to me, it was also a way of learning about another place, because I could ask them about their culture, what life was like
Hmm.
where they came from, and things of that sort. And at least now I know how to say "Yi hao ma," which is handy for all those people who are going over to Red Note, which is
Yeah.
hello in Mandarin.
Is that ni hao?
Yi hao ma.
I think it's ni hao ma. I don't
Ni
want to
hao ma.
correct you though.
Well, I've
I'm no
always said
expert
it
on
that
it. I
way,
believe it's
and they've
ni hao
always
ma.
seemed to be okay with it. And then Cantonese is leho.
Yeah. Well, they're like Italians, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? The French are different. Like, you can go over or being
Hmm.
around Italians and try to speak Italian, they'll love you.
Yeah.
No matter what the hell you say, if you say it right or wrong, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If you're around people that speak French, I feel like, and obviously being from Canada, you would know better than I would, but I feel like if you're not speaking the proper French, like with the accent and the correct dialect and with everything, they're kind of like, Speak English, please,
It
English."
I think it would depend, because there's definitely a divide between like France French and Quebec French.
Correct. Well, I was going to say there's even a little rivalry between those two. You know what I mean? As have you ever seen the movie Monuments Men
No.
with Matt Damon and George Clooney, where it's a story of um, the group tasked, the U.S. Army group tasked with going over and saving the art and the artifacts in Europe, ahead of the Allies, to try to make sure that it's preserved for future generations and stuff. in that Matt Damon's character learned his French in Canada, and then when he flies into France, you know, he tries to use some of the the French, and basically what I did with this is what the character, you know, there's the character in the movie does is like, just speak English because your French is terrible.
There's a comedy, Good Cop, Bon Cop, or Bon Cop, Bad
Bon
Cop.
Cop.
Bon Cop, Bad Cop.
Does one of the cops smoke weed?
No, Bon, B-O-N.
Oh, I thought you said
It's a comedy police thing. So they find a body that's literally on the sign dividing the provinces, like of Quebec and Ontario, and so they need to have police from both sides investigate this because it's kind of both in their jurisdiction. And so the Ontario police officer, I think it's Ontario, might be New Brunswick, has a background in French, but it's more like the France French and stuff, whereas the Quebec cop is a little bit more crass and stuff, and it's fun. And they go over like how to swear properly and all that sort of stuff. Hey, hockey's involved because it is
like
a
we were
Canadian
talking
movie.
About before we started recording. I was talking about Canadian bacon.
Yeah,
you know, and Dan Aykroyd pulls the truck over and says, you know, if you're gonna write swears on the truck, they got to be in both English and French.
Yeah, no, hockey's involved in this movie. You might like it. It's a fun movie.
I'd like it. That sounds like a good one to me.
Yeah.
Now, is there a big like Canadian film industry? Yeah, it's so.
There is like a Canadian.
I shouldn't say big, but good. I should say, because you don't have to be big to make a good film.
There is a Canadian film industry, and you know it has its own award shows and stuff like that, but it's very much contrived. Like you have to fit a certain aesthetic. So
what are they, woke?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, liberal woke, though. The thing is like liberal woke, because there's this thing called CanCon, Canadian content, CanCon. And so for broadcasters here, you have to have a certain amount of CanCon, and certain movies can qualify for CanCon, which means you can get extra money and grants and stuff for things you're doing.
Just mean like at certain times you have to run by the camera with a Canadian flag?
Well, the thing is that the people who can qualify for it, it's a little bit more like, are you willing to play ball? As in, are you willing to portray this image of Canada that we want you to portray? So it's more like the government is trying to dictate what our culture looks like to the rest of the world. Like
sounds almost like propaganda being explained, but
like someone like me, if there were grants for YouTube channels, I would never qualify for CanCon because I talk progressive politics.
You're not pro-Canada enough. So it almost sounds like a little, like almost got a little Chinese flair to it. Like, you know, if you talk bad about the Chinese Communist Party on, you know, whatever app they're using, and then, you know, you kind of,
because there are some movies that have like no Canadian, like Canadians didn't make it, didn't write it, didn't film in it, and it still qualifies for CanCon. And then you have a movie like, let's say, Deadpool, written and produced by Canadian, you know, Ryan Reynolds, Canadian, acted in it. It was shot in Vancouver. Doesn't qualify.
Soccer teams. He's doing everything. He's doing, but didn't he buy a soccer team too, or a football team? Actually, does Canada call it soccer or football?
We call it soccer because we also have football.
Oh, geez, you got traitors. Traitors. The British ain't gonna like that.
We don't really care. We don't care.
But I'm a little. You said earlier that, you know, you said you watched a little bit of my show and the streams and stuff, and you know, you said it was more progressive when you asked me the question, and I'm kind of curious as to. I guess I'm not curious, but you know, we were talking on my last show about labels.
Yes,
and, you know,
yes,
I've never come into this with a label. You know, I don't label myself really. I try not to. Maybe sometimes I do say, you know, our progressive values and that type of stuff. But that I just mean, you know, progressing the society in ways that is beneficial to the everyday United States citizen and not just corporate CEOs or
Yeah.
whatever. You know what I mean?
Well,
So it's I have a tough time when it's like because I feel like I've come up in the sphere of liberals
mhm.
being associated with like Midas Touch and like I said, growing up, not growing up, I keep saying growing up, but when I got into politics, I was watching and still do to some aspect, like people like Pac-Man and Brian Tyler Cohen, like I said, the Majority Report, Hassan, TYT when they were in actual network still, um, Jesse Dollemore, Brittany Page, the I Doubted podcast was big. So a lot of them, and I feel like those are all pretty much progressive. They would call themselves progressives. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I feel like I've never really felt a single mold.
Yeah.
That's all.
I don't
I
think
don't
Brian
like
Taylor Cohen or
that.
Dave Packman would call themselves progressives, but yeah, it's the problem
Oh, I
with
think they
labels,
would. I think they would for sure.
they probably call themselves liberal.
They'd probably be wrong. I think I don't know. Who
Well,
knows?
you see the
I think
problem,
they actually
yeah.
put have. I don't know.
The
I could be
problem with
wrong.
labels is that they change over time, they get usurped by other people, and it means different things to different people. So when I say progressive,
Right.
it can
Yeah.
mean something completely different than when, a right winger says progressive or when Jank says progressive, because he likes to claim that he is one.
Right.
Um,
At one point.
yeah. So I also fall into the category where it's like I don't have like a specific label. Like I say I'm a nonpartisan progressive, as in I don't support any political party here in Canada. But, I support like progressive socialized policy and things of that sort. And,
Mhm.
Sam Cedar would say he's of the left, but he doesn't really give himself a label much other than that.
Right.
So, I am just
I just think it's kinda
left of the
nonsense
box.
though, like, 'cause when it gets broken down, everybody just says right or left, I feel like it's only when you're talking to people on your own side where you kinda have to distinguish yourself, you know what
Mhm,
I mean? It's like, if you go into a progressive chat, it's like, they're, like, they're trying to sniff out liberals and trying to instead of trying to sniff out MAGA, I
mhm,
think, you know what I mean? I don't see why there's the equal amount of animosity between say people further on the left with people closer to the center on the left. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
I
to
kind of put it
me.
into the sports teams
Mhm,
concept where not everybody on a sports team or a hockey team or a football team is the same person or size or height or
mhm,
weight or speed. You need people of different
mhm,
different talents. This
mhm,
guy's good at this thing. I'm not, so let him do that. And he's good at running the football, so put him at running back. And he's really fast, so and he can get up the field, so make him wide receiver. But
mhm,
they all couldn't do each other's job. Like the wide receiver couldn't be the lineman. So I feel like we need. And we always talk about how the Democrats, a broad tent,
mhm,
it's a big tent party. We have so many different cultures and ethnicities and races and trying to bring that all together can be a really difficult thing, but I
mhm.
think it needs a conversation we need to have on how it can be
Yeah.
done a little better than it was in this last election.
To me, a lot of the so-called infighting on the left, I think the animosity is overblown. Like, there's certain people that make it seem like it's a bigger deal than it actually is, and it's usually the people who have had the crowd go against them. So people like Jank, Dave Packman has had the crowd go against him, and quite often we're just like challenging something they've said or wanting to educate them on something, but they're not interested. So they're saying, "Oh, you're saying that we don't agree with you 100%, so then we're it's like, no, actually there's a lot of
Well,
disagreement
sometimes
on the left."
the Bernie
Mhm.
supporters can
Yeah.
be like that too, where they
Yeah.
can feel
And
like they
there's
kinda got real
yeah.
voted, so
And
they're
there's
gonna
always outliers. There's always, there are cases where people come down a bit hard on others, like there's no doubt about it, but I think the problem of it is way, way, way overblown than it actually is because most um, authentic leftists, authentic progressives that I know, they have disagreements with each other. But as long as they think you're coming from a place of authenticity, that you're coming from a good place, that in the end we all want the same things, it's like, okay, we can agree to disagree.
Unfortunately, I do have to disagree though because we had what was it, 20 million less votes
Mhm.
as Democrats in this election than we did in the last election. Meanwhile, the Republicans had damn near the same number. I know Democrats love to point out, oh, well, COVID made it easier for people to vote, and this time it wasn't as easy. Well, COVID made it easier for Republicans to vote, and it wasn't as easy for Republicans this time. But they somehow managed to get their asses out to the polls or get their ballot in to
Mhm.
vote for their candidate, and we just either had people that were so disenfranchised because of things like Gaza and the things happening to the Palestinian people. When in recognition, if you look at that, you can still have all the feelings and they can be justified for that. But if you look at the other side who's saying, I want to do worse things, I want it to happen quicker, I want it to, I want you to kill more people faster and more egregiously, and I want to take over this land and that land. It's like, okay, in my head, I have to do a calculation. I don't like what this person is doing, and I don't like what this person's doing. Which person is worse? This
Mhm.
person is saying worse stuff than this person, so I'm gonna have to hold my nose or whatever they say and vote for this person who, in the end of it, I hopes I can sway out of their policies that I think have been detrimental thus far.
Mhm.
Because I think whatever you say, you have a better chance of swaying a man like Joe Biden in his administration into you know say not sending. I'm not saying it would happen, but I'm saying you have a better chance at I get at least talking to a man like Joe Biden than you would a guy like Donald Trump or his
Mhm.
administration. So it's
Yeah.
when you're faced with a choice of two evils, you got to choose less evil.
Mhm.
And I think that anybody that chose to either vote third party or sit out altogether actively helped Donald Trump win the election, whether that was their intention or not.
Yeah. So this is a very layered, nuanced conversation. So on the left, yes, we do have, like most people, like myself, we do also have hard lines, like things that you need to agree with, or we're not going to get along. Things like being against genocide, being pro-trans, trans rights, things of that sort, like human rights, whatnot. Like there are some fundamental things where if there's a big disagreement and the other person is unwilling to, learn or open their mind or something, then we're probably not going to get along. But when it came to election, there were multiple things going on because you had a lot of people in the United States who have family and friends, like they know people over in Gaza who have just been slaughtered. And, I don't blame them for just wanting to check out of politics altogether. You also have people that are, looking at both like, what does it matter? Because they're both going to be the same. You have people that honestly think Trump would be better for what's happening over there because they've been convinced some way that he's the anti-war candidate, which he kept on promoting. And some people, they live in their bubbles. Like that's the thing. We always base things based on the bubble that we're looking out from. And so to us, it's easy to say you need to vote for the lesser evil. And we know what the lesser evils are. But to other people, what their lesser evil is, isn't necessarily what we're looking at. It's something completely different to them based on their personal experiences, their life in general. Maybe their life sucks so much because, they have healthcare issues. They have all these other things that they just don't want to engage at all. And they're completely unplugged because their primary concern right now is survival. Because, like, why should I
Well,
care about a genocide that's happening over there when I need to survive now for me and my family? So there's a lot of that going on as well. It's no one thing, it's a whole lot of
mhm.
things, and it's nuanced. And it's hard to say, like, okay, these people should have, when we don't know what their internal dialogue was.
I think you made a very good point right at the beginning there when you said it's a nuanced conversation. You know what I mean? And I think Donald Trump somehow and the Republicans have somehow managed to spread this, mentality of isolationism once again in the United States, and kind of have leached off of the what you just said, the anger towards the establishment, whether it's housing prices, whether it's grocery prices, gas prices. There's an actual, I mean, I think that's one thing that all Americans kind of really do have in common, even though we might not bring that up. Like, we all don't like that shit. There might
Mhm.
be lefties out there trying to tell how good the economy was and all this, and I was one of them. And then once you go out to the store after the show or whatever you're doing, you're like, damn, like this shit, this is this is expensive. Why is it $30 for this two things? So
Mhm.
we're all feeling it, and rent's going up, and health insurance and how
Mhm.
costly that can be. the homeless crisis, and we're seeing homelessness increase. So people have angst, which is what I think brought us Donald Trump in the first place, which is weird because I feel like it's a whole COVID kind of did this like reset almost, where it was like, I think what brought us Donald Trump was an anger and a resentment towards the fundamental establishment of the government, thinking that the people thinking that the government was not working for them. You know what I mean? So they were willing to say, okay, I don't give a shit who the hell it is. I don't give a shit who steps up, but as long as you're not a friggin' politician who has been in the system, who has, as other people would say, screwed us and eaten off of our backs and made money off of stocks when we're sitting here struggling. I'll vote for the other guy. And the other guy just happened to be Donald Trump in that situation when Hillary was seen as that establishment Democrat candidate. They weren't going to go towards that. And, obviously misogyny played a large role in that. But I think that same thing happened in this last election. COVID kind of did like a reset where it like fried everybody's brains and nobody remembers it. And everybody's like, well, why are prices so high? And, what's going on with the supply chain? And, it's like, well, we just went through one of the worst experiences this country's ever seen. Once in a 100-year pandemic that saw over 1 million deaths, and was prolonged over several years. A country does not recover, even though people were touting that we recovered the fastest, which we did out of any country, and had the best running economy, yada yada yada. Doesn't mean we're back to square one still. There were still a lot of effects we were seeing from our time in the pandemic. Like, I explained in my show, a lot of companies are now getting their supplies for whatever they're building or making from different manufacturers because their other manufacturer went out of business due to COVID, or they shut down and moved to another place, and now it's going to cost them a little more to ship it over here, which is now going to be trickled down and pushed on to the consumer and us paying more. So there's reasons that we can explain to people watching why things are so high, but we can't forget to add the corporate greed part, because there are videos out there you can watch of CEOs saying, okay, now's our time. This inflation point, when inflation is high, we can really stick it to them, because at the end of it, people aren't smart enough to know it's us doing it. They're going to blame the government, and that's exactly what people did. That's what happened.
I could speak to a lot of that because here in Canada, we're about to elect our own fascist potato, and it's very mirrored what happened in the States, what's happening here. Like the whole let's blame the immigrants on things, and the liberals being like, oh, I think we were going a little bit too left. We need to go more right wing. Like it is uncanny how similar it is right now. And we just watched the Americans drive off a cliff and burst into flames. And meanwhile, the Canadian politicians are like, yeah, I know they did, but I'm pretty sure we can drive off the cliff and won't fall.
Yeah, we can do it better.
So like some of the similarities are the liberals here would like to pat people on the head and be like, I don't know what you're complaining about. The economy is booming. The economy is great. Inflation is low. Like, why are you guys crying and stuff like that? Well, the issue is both in Canada and the United States, all of our politicians are in the 1%. You need money in order to run. That is just flat out. They're all in their own bubble. And for them, the economy is great. It's wonderful. They're getting all these bonuses and things of that sort. The thing
But that is true at the same time, though. Still, Sandy, right? That is true. Like the
but
economy,
here's the thing.
speaking for the United States, the stocks were at record highs. We did recover faster, so we were saying it. But again, not anybody gives a shit about the economy,
no.
the stock market. You know what I mean?
There's more to this. Also, how many Americans really have stocks? Like, care about that?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. At the end of the day, that's what I thought about. I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about that for?
Yeah, here's the thing. The economy does not affect everyone the same, especially depending on your income bracket. So for the top 40%, the economy was great. For the bottom 60%, it's actually worse for a lot of people because it does not affect everyone the same. And so the people up at the top, they're seeing it from their bubble like, hey, we're doing great. All of our buddies are doing great. The economy is great. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
And meanwhile,
for the bottom, down any second now.
Yeah. And for the bottom 60%, it has legitimately gotten worse. The economy has gotten worse. Inflation is still out of control, despite what they want to say, because again, it doesn't affect everyone equally. And the people at the bottom, the people with the least, suffer the most. And there's a lot of things that aren't accounted for when it comes to inflation. And there's the thing that I've been calling invisible inflation. Things that used to be free that aren't free anymore. Things that we're now having to pay for that wasn't a thing, which isn't included in inflation numbers. And, it's a little bit here and there, but it adds up over time. And even things as simple as
Hit me with an example. What do you got for that? I'm curious about that one.
we can't buy any software anymore. We have to rent it.
What is it?
Software. StreamYards. You can't buy the program. You have to buy it every year. You rent it. If you want Adobe.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I see. It's a subscription based type.
Whereas
thing,
before,
right?
you could just buy the program, one and done. So now you're constantly having to rebuy it, and that's for pretty much all software right now. Something as simple as a building I used to go to visit a friend. Their parking lot was free. Their visitor parking lot was free. Suddenly one day I go there, there's a board with an app you have to download because now you have to pay for parking when you go to this particular location. I have a laundry cart in my building. You go, you recharge it, everything's fine. Well, now suddenly there's a 25 cents charge on every time I recharge it, even though it's not like the machine is doing any more work. And even though like 25 cents, again, not that much, but when you start adding it across the board to all the other things that are suddenly things we now have to pay for, that wasn't a thing before, right, it becomes overwhelming. And for a lot of people, it's a necessity. If you want to participate in this economy equally, like I live with dire poverty. This is why I know a lot of this. This is why I'm not streaming through StreamYards. I'm streaming through OBS because OBS is free, because I don't have.
I give credit to anybody that can use OBS right off the bat. I took one look at that and I was like, nope. I was like, that's beyond me.
My ability, one, like my ability to get my YouTube channel up and going, to compete with other people who have social media, like even just something as simple as having Windows, using Microsoft Word and all that sort of stuff. You actually need to have money in the first place to have a lot of these programs now. Whereas before, you could at least, you get it from a friend or something, you download it, one and done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. But now it's constant subscription. And now it's like, oh, well, if you want to do this, there's now a fee attached to that. That wasn't a fee before, even though nothing more is being done. They're just throwing it in there just because. So there's a lot of that inflation going on that people don't account for, not to mention, when you're living with dire poverty and all of your groceries and everything goes up, but your ODSP, that's our disability payments here in Ontario, when they only go up like a fraction of what actual inflation is, it gets worse and worse and worse. And so the people at the top, the liberals, like here, our liberals are what your establishment Dems would be. When they're saying the economy is great, I don't know what you're talking about. It's because for them, it's true. It is great for them. But then they completely just turn, like they ignore what everyone else is saying, where that anger is coming from. Then you have these right wingers, the conservatives and the Republicans, that actually recognize, no, they're mad. And we're going to validate that anger by saying, it's the immigrants, it's this, it's the trans girls in sports, it's all this. This is why you're so angry. But since they're at least validating it, it gives them something. It gives them motivation to go out and vote because, like, here are people who are actually acknowledging me. And anger is a very passionate emotion. It gets people motivated. It gets people mobilized. But the thing is of course, all the conservatives and right-wingers are lying to the people. But at the same time, again, like I said, they're acknowledging them. Whereas all the liberals and the establishment Democrats are just completely acting like we don't exist, like what we're saying doesn't exist, like our pleas about the genocide, all of that, like it's just falling on deaf ears for them. Like it doesn't, they don't want to know, they don't care to know. And as far as they're concerned, since their life is good, that means everyone's life is good.
Well, I mean, cue Nancy Pelosi, you know what I mean? Where, as long as she got her 60, 70 mil in the bank and her, insider dealings, and so she can know what stock to trade and buy before it happens because she writes the laws and she knows what companies are going to benefit from it. And, as long as she's putting her foot down and making sure a guy like Jerry Conley, who, nothing against the gentleman, but is of an older age with, a cancer in his throat, and why we would choose the older, not so much healthy guy over the young, vibrant, progressive, AOC who could finally step into more of a leadership role, who I think has kind of, done her duties in kissing the ring, so to speak. She's gone on the magazine covers with Nancy Pelosi. She's done the whole calling her mama bear and, trying to get a foot in the door to, maybe get a foot in for progressives where she can start having a little bigger role. And I know everybody, and including myself, has probably got issues with AOC, as you should have with every politician. I don't think there's any politician out there that you should be like, I like everything this person does. If you like everything some person does, then you should go back and to take a closer look, because there's nothing that we should all agree upon 100%. When nobody's the same person, nobody had the same experiences growing up. We might have had similar experiences, and it might be similar in a way, but your parents might have taught you differently, and we talked a certain, it's all different. You know what I mean? So we all got to remember, I think this happens on YouTube a lot, or just in social media in general. If you're watching somebody and then, if they say one thing that you disagree with, it's like, I'm out of here. Like, I'll never watch that person again. Like, oh, tune him out. And it's like, how does that help the conversation? Maybe 10 minutes from when you left, he explains a little better what he was saying in that, or maybe gives you an explanation that kind of, triggers something in your head where you're like, wow, maybe I didn't think about it that way, type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, and even if you don't, get in the chat and, respectfully and, nicely kind of type out your argument and get it, hash it out that way. And then, I grew up in this space watching people I don't like, because I used to, because I contribute to Midas Touch, I used to do a lot more videos for them, but I used to, watch Newsmax, and I still do watch Newsmax, OAN, RSBN, what all these things, just to see what the heck was going on and who was saying what, Fox News, but I never got sucked into it. I always knew I was watching it for content, not listening to what they were saying to try to pick it up. But I don't know, there's a lot. There's a lot to
Yeah.
be discussed in this entire area.
Well, I do try to encourage people to go and check back in with people. Like, if you didn't like them before, to check in now. Because you can look at someone like Hassan. When I first remember seeing anything from Hassan, he was still at TYT, known as Woke Bay. Um,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't think much
I
of
remember the
him.
days. I remember the
Yeah.
days.
I didn't think much of him or anything, but then recently when I saw the most recent Thanksgiving and I've seen him give that speech at the one university and what he's doing, it's like, holy fuck, did he ever mature? Like, he
And he was
really,
on with the firefighters from
yeah,
California. I didn't know if you saw that clip.
like the
I mean, but
way,
let's call a spade, though.
mhm,
It's like, he's also had some questionable shit that
mhm,
that he's done and said, and he's kind of, I don't want to say an edgelord type, but he's always been that
yeah,
edgy, saying, wild kind of crazy stuff to try to invoke a reaction. And,
mhm,
I watch it knowing that, you know what I mean? So I
mhm,
kind of have a different perspective when he says, wild and ridiculous things, not so much giving him a pass, but,
mhm,
you kind of understand in context of what he's
yeah,
talking about a little better if you've watched him for a long time, instead of just, seeing a
mhm,
single clip of him saying it. But, he's that's a great example of loving what somebody can do while also having a problem with other stuff in their area of politics, and being
mhm.
able to have
I
a,
know,
a conversation on what we disagree on. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
And
that's another great example.
like, he reaches a completely different audience than I can reach, like different
Thousands.
people.
He's got 40,
Well, yeah,
50,000 in
but I
there
just mean
daily.
like
That's crazy.
style-wise. I just mean like style-wise, because there
Right,
are
right,
people
right,
who simply will not listen to whatever I have to say because I look like a white woman,
right,
or I'm
right.
queer,
But
or I'm Canadian, so they won't listen to anything I have to say.
you know
Um,
what it is? It's probably the Canadian thing most.
yeah, yeah. No, probably because we're all
Just,
snobs up
I'm
here.
only, I'm only kidding.
We're all snobs. We get the health care, so what do we give a fuck about you guys?
We do like it up there. It's nice country up there. Eh? We do like it there.
I prefer being Canadian over American, especially now, even with our fascist potato about to come in. But
I said in my show, there's worse places that I would have to, like, I think somebody said, would you have a flea to can? I forget what the question was, but I was like, listen, I got worse. I mean, there's worse places I could be in. I got Canada, which I could, drink beer and play hockey, and I love snow, so that works. Or it's Mexico, where it's, sunny and beaches. So if it
yeah,
gets that bad,
yeah,
but
no,
I'm
no,
only kidding. I'm not going
no,
anywhere.
I prefer being here to being in America right now because you know, I do try to tell people about our healthcare system and warn that it is getting more and more privatized all the time. But, you know, my healthcare system has saved my life 5 times over, whereas, you know, if I was American, I wouldn't have made it this long.
There's one other big thing too, and I don't know if you guys will think this is a huge thing, but I kind of think it's a big thing. You guys have a lot less kids dying in schools from gunshots.
Yeah, that's a
I
thing.
think that's
Yeah.
I think that's pretty fucking kick ass of you guys, to
Yeah.
tell you the
No,
truth.
I've
'Cause
never worried
we
about.
down here, we down
Yeah.
here in fucking Rednecksville can't seem to figure that one the fuck out.
Yeah.
So excuse me,
I've.
pardon my French, but that always gets me a little
Le
pissed off.
fuck.
The fact that we have more kids dying in school
Yeah.
than like police officers dying in the line of duty, or
Hmm.
like the number one cause of
Hmm.
children's deaths in America at one point. Not sure if it still is now. I would assume it to be. It was gunshots. Dying. You know, the most
Hmm.
likely way a kid was going to die in America was by a fucking gun,
Yeah.
which is just an atrocious stat.
Yeah, my daily stress, probably not the same because I've never worried about being shot, even when I've gone to like political and queer events and all that sort of stuff. Never worried about it. It's never crossed my mind. And I've been to some conferences and stuff where like American university students have come up for an extended stay or something. And they say that that sudden release of that stress was almost overwhelming. Like it was just they
Right.
didn't realize how much they were carrying with them every day until they got up here and they realized, no, 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 you can go outside, you can go walking around, and there's like pretty much a zero chance. Like, yes, there is some gun violence, especially up in
Well,
like
it's the
Toronto and
nighttime
stuff.
that's gonna surprise the
Hmm.
Americans. It's like, well, I know we can do it during the day, but you're saying we can do this, we can walk these streets at night too?
Yeah,
Is that's what's going on? Like, wow, that's crazy. But you can always the Canadians can always tell the Americans in Canada, like when a car backfires and it sounds like a gunshot or a firework goes off, we're always the one like ducking, you know what I mean? Like getting on the ground, and Canadians are just like, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, sorry, my bad. We're Americans. We're sorry.
whereas, you know, if I was in the States and there was a shooting incident, I'd be standing up there like, what are people?
Yeah, yep, you'd be the first you'd be the first to catch it.
Because I'd be like, what's that, what's
Unfortunately.
all that noise about? And then, oh, sorry, I was in your way.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody would hear a bunch of sorries.
Sorry. Sorry, did you have to pay money for that bullet?
Yeah, no, but no, let's there's a lot of things that we could learn from lots of different countries on this planet as
Mhm.
to little bits and pieces of ways that they do things. And again, not every country is the same. And of course, the United States being as large as it is and being as
Mhm.
diverse, you know, it is something that you have to think about in context when you're like, okay, the people in the far northeast of Maine to compared to the far southeast of California or southwest of California, like how much land and differences in between the cultures is in between those two places, and obviously vice versa on the different spots on the map. But it's a lot to try to get people to sit at the same table, so to
Mhm.
speak. It's a lot of work, and it takes a lot. And it's going to take people like you and me, and like people like Hal Sparks and Tony Michaels, and a lot of these other people, the Vanguard, and
Mhm.
there's a bunch of people out there that are doing great work. Like I mentioned before, Jesse Dolmer, all these people that are going to continue to spread the word. And if we keep doing this, and different creators reaching out to different creators and building different communities and exposing other peoples to different community, so they hear things they necessarily wouldn't hear, because the left does have a tendency to get in a bubble mentality. As much as we call the right a cult, and I'm not saying the left is a cult, we kind of have some cultish tendencies, on the left, where it's, if you go into somebody's show on the YouTube and you kind of even a slight disagreement, you automatically get jumped on by 6, 7 people, like trying to protect the host. And it's like, whoa, dude, like just I didn't like or care or agree
Mhm.
with what he just said. I was just typing, like, you don't have to jump on it. Or something like Blue Sky type thing,
Mhm.
where it's like I feel like we may have screwed ourselves. I don't know if you're on Twitter, but a
Mhm.
lot of people in and around me were kind of get wanted to get off Twitter, to not give Elon Musk the ability to make money off our backs, or for his AI to use any of our content for whatever the hell he's going to use it for. But I think we're kind of screwing ourselves in the end, really, because isn't the point of our message to get it out to people that don't agree with us already? Like, there's no point in just trying to talk to people that already agree. Like, the whole point is to try to get your message out to people that maybe wouldn't necessarily listen to it, but get it in front of them long enough where they might be like, okay, this is something I can get involved with and listen to.
Mhm.
It's not as bad as I thought, type of thing. And we could have the best ideas in the world, but if we keep posting on Blue Sky and they're getting a lot of engagements and likes and stuff, but nobody that's seeing it is like, they're not getting their minds changed, right? It's all people that kind of, I'm assuming, would agree with whatever you're saying. This is a hypothetical, but I think we kind of screwed ourselves. So I kind of really think we need to get back onto the battlefield, so to speak, with these people and
Mhm.
hit them head on. I think it's really a fight fire with fire moment.
Yeah.
And the way that the Republicans just come out and wield lies and throw them around like it's going out of style, we should come right back at them with something crazy.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying we have to go out there and full out lie, but let's bring up Trump's 34 felonies at a random time at an interview. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And just make it wild. Just come out and call a press conference and be like, you know what? Donald Trump is the biggest son of a bitch I've ever met in my life. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's what I was calling for Joe Biden to do during the presidency, during his campaign. I said, if he just comes out and he starts swearing a little, I swear, if he just drops an F bomb or two about Donald Trump, I swear it would have like reinvigorated his image. I swear, to people, like, oh, maybe he's still got his fight, because I know he does swear in the background. Like,
Mhm.
it's well known that Joe Biden had he's loves cursing in the background. So if he just came out and was like, oh, that motherfucker, and he's caught himself a couple times, but if he just laid one out there for everybody, I think, and then they kind of owned it after, was like, yeah, I said that. You're damn right. This guy's trying to take our democracy. He's
Mhm.
trying to take women's rights away. He stole top class secret classified documents. He's tried to overthrow the government with an insurrection. Like, what else? Yes, I said that. That's exactly what I said. If you got a problem, take it up with my press secretary.
Yeah. There's
I think that would have helped.
yeah, there's definitely like we need to reach other people, but we also need to work on some of that leftist solidarity, like have more cohesion within the left, which, as far as I'm
Hmm.
concerned, TYT is the biggest barrier to it, and that's a video I'm working on. Um, so that is
I look
something,
forward to seeing it.
yeah, that's something because, like, as much as I say it's not as overblown as a lot of people think it is still a thing that needs to be addressed. And also, like, I know for me, like, I don't have the clout to go out there and debate right wingers. So you have people like Sam and Emma, Lance from the Serfs, Matt Binder, who will go into these right wing spaces and challenge them, like, actually challenge the people that they're speaking to, which can
Hmm.
help expose other people to other ideas or just to get them think or pointing out that the person that they're watching is lying to them about something. And if they're lying to them about one thing, let's just say they're not lying to them about other things. But I try to do what I can when I can. And on my channel, I know when I talk about Pierre Polyev, Jordan Peterson, Doug Ford, especially if I'm doing it during a live stream and I put that in the title, I'll get right wingers coming into my channel, most likely to talk smack about me. But every now and then, there's some people who would be like, well, I thought it was a really good interview between Pierre Polyev and Jordan Peterson. And that's where I'm like, okay, well, I get that you're probably fans of them. I hope that you at least watch and see why I disagree with them. Like, and actually treat them with a little bit of compassion, a little bit of respect, and try to be like,
Hmm.
just stick around long enough to see what the counter arguments are. Walk away with that as is. And so I tried to make sure that in my sandbox, I keep a certain culture of people are allowed to disagree all they want, as long as there's no slurs, no name calling, don't get personal. Because
Right, threats of violence, type of thing. Yeah.
yeah, because I want people to feel safe to come and watch my channel, even though I'm one of these radical lefties, and actually maybe learn that, we're not. I'm doing this from a place of compassion. I'm doing this from a place of I want the best outcomes for as many people as possible, including the people on the right. Like they're not
Hmm.
excluded from these goals of mine. And so it's important to let them know that we actually care about the bigger picture, about their well-being as well as our well-being. And so, not everyone will be able to do everything when it comes to reaching out to these right wingers. And sometimes it is just a matter of if all you can do is talk to a single family member, then work on that. But,
Well, that's why it's so important to have so many different types of characters.
yeah.
I feel like, you know what I mean. That way, you have you know, like I said, there's something for everybody. You know,
Mhm,
we have so many people on the left and so many brilliant people and types of people, and like there should be something for everybody. You know,
mhm,
like you should be able to come over to the left if you haven't been already and find somebody that, you know, if you're not, if you're, you know, all of a sudden you've changed to really far left, is somebody you could watch. If you're, you know, just kind of past the center line and hopping over a little bit and touching your toe in the water to the left, there's somebody you can watch on that regard. You know, it's not like, you know, that's why it's kind of, it's tough to figure out what to do when
mhm,
it comes to who you're trying to talk to, because,
yeah,
you know, the message that you put out, you really want to get people that are like-minded and
mhm,
try to get them in, but at the same time you have to reach people that you probably wouldn't normally try to reach,
mhm,
just because, you know, growing is essential in this
mhm,
business, not only politics, but, you know, if you want to make streaming a thing. I mean, I kind of I'm in a tough spot because, you know, a lot of these streamers do this all, that's all they do. They know this is their job, this is their career. They get up every day, they read bills, they read all the articles, and they're into it, and they do the show every single day. I'm a plumber. You know what I mean?
mhm,
I work 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I don't have the time necessarily, or the, that's why I tell the, you know, the lot, the people on my show, on my chat, I say, I'm not, you know, talking down to you. I'm not teaching you the things. I'm learning with you as we go through.
mhm,
You know, you're right along with me. I'm not on a soapbox talking down to you. I am eye level when we're just kind of making our way through the mainstream media and the GOP's bullshit, MAGA's bullshit, and whatever else we're getting into on the stream. And,
mhm,
you know, we're learning together. If there's a bill comes up, I'll have to read it and learn it with you guys. If there's something about, you know, the way you know, American politics works and a procedure that I don't know about, we'll look it up and we'll learn it
mhm,
together. I'm not a political science major. I didn't. There was no civics in school when I did it. There, at least nothing that I took that would teach me about politics specifically. You know, we did history and all that stuff, but it was nothing like this is how. You know, this is how exactly the government works as far as in-depth politics. You know, the general, you know, the
mhm.
branches of government and, you
Yeah,
know, the whole that stuff, but nothing concrete that set me on a path where I'd have the knowledge to get into a career of
mhm,
politics or political commentating. So
yeah.
I'm kind of learning as I go here.
That's very similar to me. And I felt it was important to have, you know, people like you, people like me out there because, you know, it doesn't seem like we're talking down to people, but then also we're talking to people at a level they understand. Like we're not trying to, you know, use Marxist indoctrination and use all these terms and stuff. And it's really kind of grounded and down to earth. And it's really, you know, here are the consequences, the lived consequences of these policies that we feel because we're at, you know, I live with disabilities, I live with poverty. So when policies go through that affect me, it affects a large group of people as well. And so I'm able to
Hmm.
actually relay that information, not just to them, but to other people within the leftist communities to let them know how this is actually impacting other people so that they get educated as well. So, like, we're doing a fair bit of educating to the people who are the studied, who do know all the theory and stuff, because we have the lived experience of what these policies
Right.
lead to far more than a lot of them do. And so it is
Well, and I
important that
think
we get out there.
everybody,
Hmm.
there's a lot more people like us.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? There's not, there's like you were mentioning earlier in the show, there's a lot more just normal everyday people that aren't, as my buddy Hal would say, you know, sucking from the fire hose of news every day, basically trying to, you know,
Hmm.
get it everything in there. You know, it's a lot of these parents and people that I know, if they catch a few minutes of the radio in the morning on the way to work, you know, a couple news clips in the 15-minute segment, whatever the hell it may be, then that's probably what they get if they, you know, if they get home from work and, you know, they actually sit down to dinner and maybe the 7 or 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock news is on and they catch a little bit of that. But it's not like they're, you know, diving deep into this. They're worried about getting food on the table. They're
Hmm.
worried about getting to work. They're worried about procedures. They're worried about, you know, paying the bills and, you know, getting the kids to school, getting them to karate, whatever the hell. You know what I mean? It's like they don't have the time. So I think there's a lot more, I think it resonates a lot more when
Hmm.
somebody like that, if somebody like that were to hop on YouTube, you know, and just happen to see a normal guy like me chatting probably the way they would with a friend if they were chatting about politics, it might resonate with some people. And if
Hmm.
I can A, inform, and B, entertain people in a way where they not just get their politics from me, but it would engage them after they watch my show. You know, after they've watched my show, they're like, okay, let me go check out what he was talking about there and maybe learn a little bit about that. You know, it's not like you come into my show to, you know, it's not like, you know, civics class 101. You know, I'm trying to entertain and inform the best I can with what I do know. And then if I don't know, we'll learn together. And I hope that gives you the, you know, the ability and the spark to further that and take it a little deeper into politics. And maybe if you do that, somebody else will see it, and, you know, kind of the chain reaction type thing, and we can get people involved, because there's always people leaving, you know, there's always people coming into politics. There's always people, like you said, that, you know, have had enough and tuned out and they're done with it. So we always need to fill the slots and get new people coming in.
Yeah, well, we kind of bridge the gap in a way, because a lot of people, especially, they might end up talking to us and being like, well, I'm really mad about this and stuff. And we can validate their anger, but we can also redirect it to the actual cause, as opposed to what they've been told by the mainstream media or by their politicians. And we can actually then, you know, it's a little chip away. You're chipping away at it, because you're saying, like, you know, and again, we're not condescending. We're saying, well, actually, this is the reason why blank policy is working this way, or this is the reason why this politician voted that way, or, you know, this is why your grocery prices are actually high. You know, it's nothing to do with the liberal government here. Like, yes, sure, there's things they probably could have done better, but it's the greed. That's what it is. It's the greed of the corporations. And, you know, we're able to communicate it again to people in a way that they understand, because we're not using, you know, legal language trying to communicate it to them. And we can also
And if you do want that, there are those
Yeah.
presenters out there too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that type of class that you want. If you're in the legal mumbo jumbo, there's plenty of that on YouTube for you to suck up if you want that. And like I said, if you'd rather the normal, you know, like I call it like the family friendly barroom talk type of stuff, the way they talk about politics type of, you know, you don't have to worry about if you get something wrong, or, you know, if you don't say something quite perfectly or something like that, then, you know, we still know what you're talking about, and we'll correct it, and we'll move on from there. And it just makes it a little more easy for people to come out of their shell, I think, than it is in, say, you know, a more, and I think it just happens when your show gets big to a certain point. It's tough. You know, once you get up to the 1,000,000, 3,000,000, 10,000,000 subscriber type thing, it's like,
Give
it
us a
kind of,
couple more
it's
years,
tough.
we'll be there.
Right. No, I'm just hoping for real people. That's all. I don't care if it's, I want slow, steady growth is fine with me. I just want real, normal, everyday people that, you know, come back and don't, you know, if like I said, if they don't agree with you on something, aren't, oh, I'm out of here and screw you. You know, that's, you know, oh, I don't like that position, so I'm never going to watch you again. That's, if that's you, then fine. Take that, you're not the person that I was kind of talking to anyway. I'm talking to the people that, you know, can disagree, and we can also continue the conversation in ways that we do agree, type of thing.
You know, this is also why it's important for us lefties to get to know each other, because, you know, when it comes to, like, okay, you want to know exactly policy and this and that and the other thing, and the names of all these politicians here in Canada and what their roles are, go watch Steve Boots. You know, if you want investigative journalism, watch Rachel Gilmore. You know, they're wonderful Canadian content creators that know more of that area. But, you know, now if somebody wants, like, if somebody is watching your channel and you're talking about a Canadian story or something, you'd be like, yeah, you can go check out Left of the Box, you know, because
Absolutely.
it's about knowing. It's like, okay, I might not be the one that you resonate with the best, but do you know what? This other lefty over here that I know of, you probably get along well with. You know, their message might get out to you better, because it is about, I get very sus of any leftist that says, we're the only one. We're the only channel. We're the only place you can come for this information.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah,
Or,
I'm talking
you
about
know, and I have
TYT.
a big problem with the, you know, like putting your stuff behind a paywall too, you know, like trying to, I understand, I understand having to make a living and keeping the lights on and paying the bills and stuff and asking, I mean, that's just how YouTube is, that's just how this environment works. You run off of people that are nice enough to come out of pocket with $2, $5, $10 here to try to keep the channel running, or to, you know, help if your microphone breaks, or if your lights break, or, you know, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? So it's like, Yeah, you're 100% right that we have to make sure that we're continuing to reach out to
Mhm.
different platforms and people and audiences and get them together and constantly making sure we're kind of on the same page and growing in the same
Yeah.
regard, because like you said, politics is an evolving thing. It's not one thing that you can point to that is and always will be that.
Mhm.
It's forever changing with the people and the politicians and the times and what people like and feel and don't feel, that type of thing. So you always kind of have to tailor your. That's why I think right now we're in such an unprecedented time in politics, and that may sound stupid from somebody saying that hasn't been in politics that long, but I just feel like even when people talk about politics in the past, 90s, 80s, it was a more normal discussion where it was more, okay, how much money is being allocated in this bill to this person or that person, instead of, no, that bill is not going to get done at all. You know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
more, okay, yeah, we'll vote for that, but can we put a little more into into this section instead of in this section? Like, that seemed to be more of how politics used to be. Now it's like, no, Republicans and Mitch McConnell, their one goal and aim was to make sure that Obama and Biden got nothing done. They wanted to make sure they got nothing passed. Mitch McConnell was very blatant about that. And then the Democrats come in like, oh no, we'll work with you. You know what? That Doge thing, that fake committee thing that you've made up, that sounds kind of good. Let me help with that. And John Fetterman saying, we really should pardon Donald Trump, even though he's got complete immunity by the per the Supreme Court of the United States of America. We should also give him a pardon, just for the cherry on top, I
Mhm.
guess. I don't know, because we haven't licked the boots enough. We should throw that on top. Just none of that really makes sense. But have to know before I go your opinion and your take on the whole Canada as the 51st state.
Mm-mm. Would you guys like to be the 11th province?
No, I believe me, I think it's the most ridiculous thing that
Yeah.
I've ever heard. So
Uh,
I in no way
it,
entertain the thought, but
it
it's
is.
it's weird to see that there
Um,
was a fraction of like people in Canada that were almost like willing to have the conversation, which I thought was odd.
there are separatists in Canada. Right,
Yeah.
especially ultra right wingers. The premier of Alberta is one of them, apparently.
Hmm.
But will it happen? No. Uh, well, it won't look like that. We won't be the 51st state. The thing that I've been concerned about from the get go is like the economic takeover, which Donald Trump has now actually said out loud as well. That type of thing,
Hmm.
that type of pressure, that is very doable because we have very little power when it comes to combating that sort of thing. And so it's about, taking over the resources, taking over the water and things of that sort, the land. There are ways of doing it that we can't predict how that will look. Like there'll never be boots on the ground type thing here. Um, but we need to have like leaders that push back strongly against that, and that won't be the conservatives because the conservatives are kind of between a rock and a hard place here because they desperately want to kiss Donald Trump's ring, but at the same
Hmm.
time they're nationalists and they want to look like they're strong compared, look like they're strong Canadians and stuff of that sort. So they're like, but I want to suck up to you, but I still am nationalist. So this is a little bit of a challenging balancing here thing. But
Right,
the
right.
reality is the vast majority of
More of just
Canadian.
like an anarchy type of thing, like just
Mhm.
whatever causes the most chaos
Yeah.
and
But
makes the government look bad type of
mm,
thing, I guess.
the thing is, it will never happen. Not to mention, it's like, what would your country do with 40 million immigrants suddenly? Like, that's what you're looking at.
Well, I don't think he's talking about moving you in. I think you'd stay where you are.
We'd
It
stay
just
where we are, but we would technically be immigrants now relying on the American systems.
No, believe like I said, I don't entertain it for a second.
Mhm.
How it just there's no, it's stupid. It's
Mhm.
just it's stupid all around. It's untenable. It's nothing that could even possibly remotely work. Even I think if you spent years and years working on
Mhm.
it with some of the smartest people, I think they'd come out of it and say it's stupid. It's just not,
Well, even
it's
when
not worth it. Like they're separate things for a reason. You know what I mean?
it's like I don't think that Canada as is will forever be this way. Like, sure, borders can change, but it's not easy to do. Like, Quebec did a serious attempt at separating from Canada. but there's all these factors and stuff that they're just not taking into account, like the tide economies, the currency, the fact that in every province there's still federal land which wouldn't belong to the province, and on that federal land is where a lot of the indigenous peoples live.
See, so you're getting into the nuances that are already like a
Mhm.
deal breaker as
Like,
soon as you
is
start
there a
looking at it. You know what I mean?
passport?
It's
Do you
just
put up border patrol? Like all of these other sorts of things,
well, I
like
was getting a
people.
kick out of them actually trying to tout the northern border that we have as a problem, like comparable to the southern border, which, agreed. I'm not a denialist. I'm not living in reality. I understand that the southern border and immigration as a whole is an issue that, we need to uh, um, better get a hold on to make it more humanitarian, to make it more accessible and easy for these people that are, naturally leaving undeniably horrendous situations to come live a better
Mhm,
life, and on the overwhelming percentage to come and do it peacefully, in a way that progresses society and helps. And if they are lucky enough to send a few dollars back home to the people, then that's basically the most that will come of it. For all these Americans, well, they send their money back home. It's like if that's the worst thing that they do,
mhm,
if that's the worst thing they do, they come here and they bust their ass and they work hard and they own a home and they contribute to society and they go to these shops and stores and they can, contribute to the community. Are we really going to be like, well, no, you can't send your hard-earned money wherever the hell you want it?
mhm,
That doesn't sound very American to me. That
mhm.
doesn't sound very freedom-like to
Yeah.
me.
And a lot of the people who cross the border illegally, it's mostly coming into Canada from the United States, but also like, yeah, America, like the most undocumented people in the United States are Canadian. They just overstayed their visas. So how does a
Right,
border
which is something
patrol,
never talked about,
yeah,
right.
how does border patrol protect against that? Like it is just ridiculous on all ends when it comes to that sort of thing. And like I'm one of those super radical lefties that I dream of a world that's border free type thing. you know.
Well, it's funny too because before I leave, I'm gonna have to get out of here in a minute. But before I leave you, it's funny that you say that now that Donald Trump talks about the southern border and how we need strong borders and this and that, and all of a sudden when he talks about Canada, it's an invisible line on a map. It's
Mm,
just the hypocrisy,
yeah.
the blatant hypocrisy in everything that he says and how easy it is, which is kind of what drew me into it. Which is
Mhm,
like I had the thought where it's like, okay, everybody's going to notice this is bullshit, right? Like, there's no way this can happen. I get like before the
mhm,
election, like I never thought like I was again wasn't very political, and I didn't think he had a chance. Like my thought was nobody can believe this.
mhm,
Nobody can vote for this, right? That we're all set. I don't even have to worry about it. And then he won, and it was like, what? Like, what the hell are you guys like? Again, if you went back and asked a bunch of these Trump supporters now what they thought of Donald Trump in 1996 if they're around, or 92 or 2002, you know what I mean, they would be like, screw that, pompous New York billionaire prick who's bankrupted more companies than he's had successful ones. The playboy, the guy that hangs around Jeffrey Epstein, is that the guy you're talking about? We don't give a shit about that guy,
mhm,
but now he's like, oh, it's Donald Trump, the businessman. He was on The Apprentice. It's like, gives a shit, it was a TV show. Like, that's the whole point. Like, they
mhm,
made him seem like he was a good businessman before the show. Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, he didn't write out of the deal. I hope people know that. Like, he didn't sit down at his friggin' oversized New York apartment that he lied about the square footage of
mhm,
at a desk, jotting down his incredible business ideas that he's had over his life that has somehow made him his fortune from nothing. No, somebody else wrote it. He slapped his name on it like he does with the buildings and everything else. Everything's just a facade with Donald Trump. It's a game. It's a mirage. He's the only asshole on the planet that has managed to bankrupt multiple casinos, I think.
mhm,
Like, how is that even possible? The house always wins in these things. Like, and you still manage to screw that up. I don't know.
mhm.
But I really do
Yeah.
appreciate the chat. I hope we can do this again.
Well,
I had
there's
fun.
still like
Um,
tons I want to talk about. Like it's only
I
what,
know,
5 days
I
to inauguration?
that fake inauguration. It's a inauguration, we call it. It's just fake. It's
Yeah, there's
phony.
still like tons I want to talk about, but yeah, I can let you go, or we can just quickly check in with each other, and I'll end the stream, um, if that's okay.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I could talk about this stuff all night as far as how that's going to affect me tomorrow in my plumbing aspects
Yeah.
when I get up early. It's
Well, I
probably
just
not going
want
to
to
be great.
say thank you to Crotchety for the $2 super chat. Crotchety saying Sandy Trump would treat Canada like Puerto Rico. That'd probably turn us into a territory. Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, that I
Uh,
don't know if he could get paper towels to launch that
I
far.
know, I
You know
know.
what I mean? That's kind of a they don't fly as well in cold weather.
Yeah. Well, we might want other things than paper towels.
But I'm very happy that I now know it's 10 provinces. I will work on naming them.
3 territories as
I
well.
right, right, right. I think I would do a little better already at naming the
Mhm.
10. I'd get a few more. I wouldn't
Mhm.
get all of them. I did know what a took was, so give me
Took.
credit on that one. Well, you say tomato, I say tomato, I say bar, you say bar. I say sorry, you say sorry. So we'll leave that one to that.
Sorry.
But I do apologize on the rest of them I got wrong. I just, like I said, I was more catching
Fun.
up on politics,
Mhm.
TYT, Anna, and Ben
Yeah.
drama than I was my Canadian facts.
Well,
So
you'll have
I do
to
apologize.
invite me onto your
Like if you
show.
were
So,
asking me
yeah.
about like Guy Lafleur or
Mhm.
like, some of the Montreal Canadiens back in the day or Patrick Roy or,
Mhm.
like stuff like that, I would have nailed it.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I
Well,
didn't.
you'll have to
I
invite
did get
me. Yeah.
when Canada went into World War II though.
Yeah.
Took me a while, but I did figure it out.
You'll have to invite me onto your show, and then we can just talk TYT and all that sort of stuff. Oh,
I would be more than happy to.
and thank you, 56 Nick Rich, for another $2 super chat. Thanks for the hands
Nicholas,
cross the border. Thank you so much.
let's go.
So shout yourself out to my
Nick's a good
sandbox.
dude. Nick's a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if anybody that's watching, if you would like to check me out, you can check me out on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook. I do a live stream Sundays, every Sunday, 1 p.m., and also Wednesday nights at 8 from 8 to 10. You can catch me on Blue Sky at bostonbrian.com. And yeah, if you just type in Boston Brian at any of those, I think it's Boston_Brian_live at Twitch. It's a little weird on Twitch, but I think if you type in Boston Brian, you'll find me. I'm the guy with the accent with the backwards hat most of the time. And yeah, I'd love for you to follow me. Like I said, we're on our way to 10,000 subscribers, so every little bit helps. And anybody that's engaged in watching shows like mine and Sandy's and these tinier, not the out behind the scenes trying to build a following in a platform. Anybody that's helping and donating and watching those types of shows are really the winners, I think. Like I used to say in like TikTok debates, you know, people used to be like, well, why are you talking to that guy? You're never going to change his mind. The MAG, it'll be a MAG guy. You're never going to change his mind. You can debate him all day. And it's like, I always say, I'm not debating. I'm not here to change that guy's mind, so to speak. I'm here for the people in the chat, right? Because there's 1,500 people listening to what I'm saying that I may get through to 10 of those people out of the 1,500. And that's way more success than I was to get through to this one guy that I'm talking to in 4 or 5 hours of debating. You know what I mean? So it's like the people listening are picking up on what you're saying too, even if you're not really kind of getting across with, the person you may be debating. And I think you'd be great at, having somebody of a dissenting opinion on your show. You know what I mean? I think you'd from this chat, I think you'd represent the left very well. All you got to do is really, and I'm not saying this to teach you. I'm sure you're very well aware. I'm just talking to talk, but as long as you know the facts and what you say is true, and you kind of have a just even a little bit of knowledge of what's going on, you can really do some damage against a Republican because it doesn't take much to scratch past the surface of their horse shit and get down to to calling them out and actually proving them wrong, because a lot of the time the stuff that they're saying and spewing is built off of total lies, total propaganda from whatever right-wing network that they watch, or it's been manipulated in some way. Again, we love telling people that these right wingers, they love throwing a kernel of truth. These conspiracy theorists, they love throwing a little bit of truth in there to get you hooked, where you're like, well, that did happen, so maybe the rest of that is true. You know what I mean? But you got to put your blinders on and see through it. But yeah, anybody that follows, I appreciate it. Sandy, I really, really do appreciate you having me on the show. And again,
Yeah.
I
Well,
could probably chat. I could chat all night, but my boss
well,
would be really mad if I started
Well, let me
putting in
finish up.
a
Let me
water heater
finish
in the
up.
wrong
Yeah,
house.
let me finish up, and then we can sign off and have a quick little goodbye, not
Oh,
live.
absolutely. Yep, yep. I got you. I
So
remember.
I refer first. I want to refer your next referral to your next leftist for you to get to know the letter hack.
Hmm. I've heard that. I've seen that
Mhm.
in my I don't know
Mhm.
what you call it, feed, I guess, on
Mhm.
YouTube, and I've heard people
Mhm.
mention it in the chat before, so I definitely have to check that out. I think I have watched a few
Mhm.
videos, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
but I'll have
Yeah.
to check out more for
He
sure.
has tons of guests on all the time, and I'm sure you two would hit it off wonderfully. So, and to my audience, again, in the sandbox, let everyone know how much you love seeing Boston Brian. And my next show will most likely tentatively be Friday night. Uh, and yeah, I need time to work on this monster video that I'm working on about TYT. So most likely my
There
next
you go.
live
There
stream
you go.
Friday night. So until then, as I always sign off, salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today. And where is it? Here we go.